is Hard Facts.
Hard Facts.
Hard Facts.
On 95.1 Nigeria Info.
A very good evening. No, it's afternoon. They've warned me about this evening and afternoon thing, and I keep doing it. Thank God this has even improved. I used to say good morning, but now I've graduated to evening. But somehow, some way, we'll stay with the afternoon. 3:07 p.m. Nigerian time it is. Welcome to Hard Facts. Yes, today being the 8th day now in the month of February. Gracefully, somebody would say the month is going on bye-bye. You know, that's the Nigerian way of saying going by. It's going bye-bye fast enough. Welcome to the show this very lovely day. As always, we like to start off with the roundtable. Oh yes, let's table the national issues, the latest stories coming in, and examine them. What do they mean for every one of us? As you already know, nothing breaks the news like the news. My task is to prove it. And yes, we're here to prove it once again. On the round table today, my guest is Mr. Emmanuel Ozomene. I hope I pronounced that right.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It's good to see you. He was just telling me before the break, the last time he was here, he was a guest to our late colleague, Debbie, and that experience. I remember she requested to have you on, and we granted that request. It's life.
It is.
Life and growth. It's well with every one of us. All right, welcome to the show today. Let me start off by talking about the news a lot of people may not be privy to. Yesterday evening, during the course of the show, I know that the NLC, TUC, and I think ASU also were meeting with the chief of staff. ASU was the one I heard of, that they were meeting with the chief of staff to the president. But as it stands this evening, few minutes ago, as Vanguard has put it out there, they said the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, and the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, TUC, have issued a 14-day nationwide strike notice to the federal government. Their grounds is the non-implementation of the 16-point agreement between the organized labor, that's NLC, TUC, and the federal government from 2nd of October 2023. The leaders of the group said, well, the October 2 agreement focused on addressing massive suffering and the general harsh socio-economic consequences of the ill-conceived, ill-executed, I'm quoting those words now, ill-conceived and ill-executed IMF World Bank induced hike in the price of PMS and the devaluation of the Naira. These dual policies have had, as we predicted, dire economic consequences for the masses and the workers of Nigeria. Let me start with you on this. It looks like the walls are closing in on the Nigerian government in various ways. Yesterday we started off with the concept of food saboteurs. People say, there are some people responsible for food saboteurs. Now the NLC seems to have come on board now to be in front of what will have said to describe as the citizen closing in. There was Niger State's protest. There was Kano protest. Everybody is forming their own group to put some pressure on the government due to the economic crisis that we do have. The NLC, TUC are not an exception. Are they needed right now?
Well, I think the key issue is that for government, for the citizens, it's all opportunities for to scale up conversation, to further the conversation, to deepen and strengthen the conversation. No nation on earth goes through development without also going through what you might call travails of development. So it means that, first of all, we need to be able to identify what are the key issues. Now we are talking about high cost of food. Then the next should be, why high cost of food? Now, if you do if you drop a pyramid now, you're likely going to find petrol at the top of the pyramid.
Yes.
In terms of costs, if you're going to drop a pyramid, why do we have high cost of food? We could put petrol, cost of petrol, or increase in the price of petroleum products on top. Because the moment the price of petrol moved from 146 naira thereabout to 600 naira, first 500, then 600 naira, invariably every other thing within that value chain, production, transportation, aggregation, marketing, is actually going to be affected. Because where this food is produced is in the hinterland. And you need to move it to the markets that are in the urban areas where people have the wherewithal, where the market is available. And between that point, say somewhere in Kaura Namuda, where you plant onion or plant tomatoes, yam, to the market in Wuse Market, where the urban dweller in Abuja is going to buy the product. You find out there are a whole lot of cost elements. And this cost element, as a result of that increase in price of fuel, is actually going to go up. And you have taxis here and there, because if you travel between here from Kaura Namuda to Abuja or from Kaura Namuda to Enugu, you're likely going to see roadblocks. I mean, the local government people who call themselves revenue collectors, all kinds of things. So what I think we need to do now as a country, if you ask me, first is to say, look, where are we? How did we get here? And then how do we need to move out of this, whatever conundrum, if you like to call it that? And then I think what the government need to do is hard thinking. Hard thinking in terms of, if you look at the value chain of food production, we have all kinds of actors involved there, from the point where the man tills the ground. Before tilling the ground, he needs a tractor to till it. There's tractor service provider. After tilling the ground, he needs workers, farm hands, to help him plant the seed. Now, what type of seed does he have access to? Because the type of seed you have access to would also determine your yield. Now, in between, you would need agrochemicals to be able to ensure that the fight the crop diseases, to be able to ensure you get your required yield.
Yes, but you know, when you I mean, I'm listening to you describe how we have a food crisis, and it almost sounds you're preaching about food subsidy as, I don't know whether it's a panacea or as an intervention to the issue of
food
price.
Subsidy. What I need to do, what I'm saying actually, in fact, I have had an opportunity of working within the agricultural value chain over several years. So I'm speaking from the point of view farm experience. That's what I'm talking about. So what we need to do, apart from this, is the increase in prices of petroleum product is outside the security challenges of farmers being unable to access the farmland. That's also another key issue.
A big factor.
Yeah, you also need to deal with. But what I think should happen is about being practical. Get to the table, get to the drawing board, list who are the actors in this food chain, and what percentage of the role does each of these actors play? And then how do we support these actors? I mean, what should we do as a government? What should we do as an institution? What should we do as a people in terms of ensuring that, because every country in the world, the biggest ambition is to be food sufficient.
Now I'm curious about this, because every time I do hear of NLC TUC, they always refer to something that was in their agreement that's not been followed through. It's never really so much about we're going on protests to preach about the economic hardship of how people suddenly feel in February. I mean, whatever 14-day strike notice they are putting up, it's a reference to what they had in October. Yeah. And if we check the October one, I'm sure it's a reference to some other thing that was also another dating system, somewhere in 2019. And if we trace that 2019, there's also another date behind that date. Yeah. In other words, NLC TUC, the organized labor as we have it, always push forward their agenda based on some agreement or some discussion based on a date. It's not even close, or it's not in the reality of now. And some would say this to you, that in the bottom line of whatever number of pages that they're pushing for, it's always been about salary increments, some money promised for October, November, December. I've forgotten the name that it was called, but the federal government called it some name. We had 25,000 or something like that, October, November, December. Yeah. It's some addition to whatever anybody is earning. Coincidentally, not everybody works for government, and that's a factor in its right. So let me get to the question on this, which is, do you think touching the salaries of Nigerians, whether you work for government or not government, do you think it will make any difference? Because even if they go on 14-day strike, another promise around salary or increment may just tell them, okay, Oga, we will reconsider. And that may not even solve the problem.
Let's look at salary. Now, when you talk of salary, the key thing to look at is first, what is the disposable income? I mean, the bottom line of salary should be disposable income. Now you're talking about after you've done all the deduction, how much does Adamu take home? How much does Alice take home? How much does Chukwuemeka takes home? How much does Shegu takes home? That's important thing.
Yes.
That's number one. Then, what is the level of inflation in the system? Yeah, because the economy, apart from, you need to talk about macro level at this, where you can manage the micro and macro.
Yes, certainly.
And they are all interrelated. So if you have a 23.6% inflation at the moment, no matter how much you earn, they will amount to nothing. Take, for instance, somebody who earned 20,000 naira 30 years ago and somebody who earns 200,000 naira now. If you do purchasing power parity analysis,
yes,
I mean,
you're practically the same thing.
If not the same thing, the guy who earned 200 naira 30 years ago would have lived a more better life in terms of access to goods and services.
In other words, what we call the blue collar when we're growing up, the guy who ties the tie several times, the British knot and the American knot, is like a blue collar based on his salary. I mean, it's practically a pauper, just well-dressed pauper that goes to work daily. That's what you're insinuating.
So what should happen? My thinking, if I'm on the NLC team, we should be talking about how do we address critical issues within the economy at the moment. How do we tackle inflation? I mean, we have exchange rate crisis at the moment. What should we be doing in terms of growing our capacity to be able to earn more into the country so that our negotiation around exchange rate will be favorable? Because if you look at the balance of trade between Nigeria, say for instance, United States of America or Japan or China or South Korea or any of the EU countries or United Kingdom, it's not favorable. And the moment you don't have a favorable balance of trade, your currency is not going to be strong, because the strength of your currency is dependent on your foreign reserve, is dependent on your capacity to bring in more money into the country from outside. And it's a result of having a productive economy, not primary economy where you don't process anything before sending it out. Say, for instance, you take a cashew nut out to China and it comes back here. In my village in Abia, people are picking cashew nut. If you go there on market day, women are selling raw cashew nut to a producer or to an aggregator, aggregator who is taking it somewhere, and the moment it comes back to our supermarket, the price will be something else. So what we need to do is, how do we revitalize the industrial sector? That's number one. I remember growing up in the East, we had a general cotton mill at Onitsha, and that general cotton mill had hundreds of thousands of workers. I've gone to Kaduna. I remember as a secondary school boy, I was in Kaduna. I mean, if you see the production capacity of Kaduna as a city, I had an uncle who worked in one of the factories, a car company factories. I mean, you could. So get Nigeria back to productive activity. I think that's the key thing we need to do. But that's what I want to see happen.
Now, one of the things that seems to be like, we keep hearing new things, food saboteur. Yesterday, I upgraded the food saboteur to food terrorist as something that possibly would gear, because sometimes unknown food saboteur becomes a food terrorist. And I'm a little bit curious about every new economic term that's come on board under the administration of President Tinubu. Economic term possibly doesn't exist, but it's meaningful enough to be used by government officials. For example, all we've always known is the concept of minimum wage. Under President Tinubu, we started hearing phrases like living wage. And in so much interest, they've contradicted what minimum wage is from what living wage is. And in 8 months, it still remains undefined in reality what that means. Why is it difficult to come up with a phrase and the reality of that phrase meaning anything at all? Because now we're talking about living wage, and I don't even know what it means. Has anybody received a living wage in their account? I don't know if let's just forget the English. Is there a living wage voucher or some money that's called living wage voucher, if there's any of such, that's coming to anybody's account, or that makes sense in such light?
No. When you're talking about living wage, you are talking about an income, quoting ASU. I remember back there in the 90s, ASU say my take-home pay cannot take me home. So it's actually saying, I'm paraphrasing, get a wage that will take you home and bring you back to work the next day. That's a more practical way of saying it. When you say my take-home pay can take me home, but now get a pay that will take you home, bring you back again, and help you meet the basic needs. For me, ASU should more of, or ASU, Labour, NLC, TUC should begin to look at the holistic part of the economy. For me, it makes more sense. It will help the economy become better and robust. It will help the conversation become a little bit more holistic, because each time that you talk about salary, you have less than 5% of the population working within the organized private sector. The data is available. I think the informal sector has about almost 72%. Of the labor.
It was 70% before, but now
I think about 72% or thereabout within that metrics. So if you have the informal sector having larger population of people, so what it means is that you must have a policy that caters for the informal sector, because that's where you have quite a lot more people in. Each time you say, I have taken care of civil servants, as it were, and perhaps people within the organized private sector, what of people in the informal sector? What is it that you're doing for them? What policy focus is, gearing towards ensuring that what they do, becomes, very productive?
That means this next story that I'm about to share with you would interest you, because Femi Falana tried to get the government to do everything for everybody. Okay, there's a story that is also running today. Court orders federal government to fix prices of petrol, diesel orders within 7 days. That's in the Vanguard. A federal court sitting in Lagos yesterday ordered the federal government to fix the prices of petrol, diesel, kerosene, and other goods within 7 days from February 7, 2024. The trial judge, Justice Ambrose Louis Alago, specifically ordered the government to fix the prices of milk, flour, salt, sugar, bicycle and its spare parts. You also have machete, motorcycle and its spare parts, motor vehicles, spare parts, as well as things like petroleum products, diesel, premium motor spirits, that's petrol, kerosene. Now, the court made the order on his judgment in a suit by the right activist and lawyer Femi Falana, a senior advocate of Nigeria, against the Price Control Board and the Attorney General of the Federation, AGF. Now, the AGF did react to this. That's the AGF alongside, who is also the Minister of Justice, Prince Lateef Fagbemi, said the federal government would get a copy of the court judgment, study it, take necessary actions that will be in the interest of the masses and the nation. The AGF, who reacted through his special advisor, Communication and Publicity, Mr. Kamarudin Ogundele, said, as soon as we have a copy of the judgment, we'll study it. On the long run, we'll take a decision that's in the best interest of the country. Rest assured, the government will have the interest of the masses at heart. Falana cited Section 4 of the Price Control Act as the first defendant and says that the first defendant, that's the government now, can carry out his duty to impose a price on any good that are of any kind specified in the first schedule to the Price Product Control Act. And I was looking through that, by the way, earlier on today. I almost didn't know this existed in terms of that you can actually fix price. Please, help me understand this, because one of the things that floats in Nigeria and floats very well is the issue of price. Coincidentally, when it flows up and up and up and up. Let me sound Yoruba now. Very up and up and up. It goes all the way to the top and never, flets to come down. Even though recent time was it the CBN or the Minister of Finance who said, by the end of the year we should be looking at 20% inflation rate, as against the numbers that it is right now, very close to the 30% mark. And I'm wondering, price control as instructed by the court, do you see the federal government fixing some prices? Can they fix any price? Can they say to you, Ogi, Pap, any other thing you're buying, 10 naira is 10 naira. It cannot be more than 10 naira.
No, it's doable. Incidentally, while growing up in the 70s, we had price control board in virtually
everything, yeah?
Every state, even at the local government level, the markets are controlled by local government. So, and the act is still in force. I mean, it's still an instant law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
1977.
Yeah. So it's still there. So I think what will happen, like the Honorable AGF said, is to look through it and see what relief were granted to the plaintiff here in Mr. Femi Falana, SAN. So, and then that will be where to start from. And then if the federal government on their own thinks, well, the judge, they didn't look at some certain aspect of the issue in terms of the way it should have been, they also have a right to appeal the judgment. And that also would mean it will be we'll have more legal fireworks.
Why on earth should they be appealing it?
No, depending on the content of that judgment.
I'm not even trying to be legal at all in this. I'm just thinking that if you're appealing, it is literally appealing what Nigerians would say, try for us now, try for us. At least now they said they will open up the food reserves. Here's what that section 4 and 5 of the Price Control Act talks about. Let me go with 5. It says, the board may be, the board may by notice published in the Federal Gazette fix the basic price for any controlled commodity in accordance with subsection 2 of this section, fix the permitted variation of the commodity in respect of any state in accordance to section 3 of this section. The basic price is the price which, in the opinion of the board, properly represents, in the case of goods produced in Nigeria, the cost of production of commodity plus the manufacturer's cost. And in the case of imported goods, the duly paid landed cost in Nigeria. Does that sound like anything the Nigerian government wants to touch?
Okay, let me explain to you. In the agricultural sector, for instance, you have what they call silos. The silos are actually supposed to be like where you stock the food.
Yes.
If you have overproduction or glut in the market, after production, you're likely going to have a glut during harvest. So government, by law, is permitted to buy up the excess as a way of trying to stabilize. It's called price stabilization mechanism. Buy it up, store up in the silos at what they call, what would have been fixed at the beginning of the planting season. It's called guaranteed minimum price. So that guaranteed minimum price, how do you arrive at it? Take what is the cost of tilling the land, what you call land preparation, the seed, the labor, the harvesters, tractorization, whatever it is.
Yes.
As well as moving the product to the market. Either you use a farm gate price or the market price, getting it to the market, and then you can fix guarantee minimum price. So at that point, what the law clearly explains here that if it's an imported goods, check the entire cost with which you got it to the Lagos port and to the man in Onitsha or Aba or Kanu or Zaria, and then check, you can fix how much profit he can make. The point, the idea of this is for government to play its role in ensuring that the man who sells doesn't take undue advantage of the consumers.
And that, I would say, in ideal situation is supposed to be when even the person who is selling and both the supplier demand and the person making the demand are even getting to meet in an ideal situation where how much is it? This is how much I have. Gas can now, how much you collect? They negotiate their way through. But now we don't sound like we're negotiating anything. It sounds like we're in for it. It's a prize. You can't buy a bag of rice last week with full chest and come back next week to, basing your budget on that. I'm glad I got married recently because by now, my brother, if you're going to marry, go be humble. Be humble. Promise her a future glorious something. Don't marry elaborately. You people drink gari, and the gari have to swear safe before you drink it. That's my advice. Anyway, that's on the side. But point being, the fact that can they leave out supplier, leave out demand? They've done it with petrol before because they were subsidizing petrol, at least a part of it, and said, oh, there's the price petrol will sell. And even now, when we buy at 680 or thereabout, or 670, it still sounds like it's still some idea around fixed price. They call it the floating, that is floating, but then there's still some level of fixing in it. And now you talk about opening up the food reserves. And by the way, are you buying that? Do you think food reserves?
No. The idea is, like I told you, the basic idea.
Do we even have things stored up to share?
But there's always been silos in Nigeria. I mean, when you need to stabilize the price, you release assuming there's scarcity.
Was it really just about the price or just hunger?
No, the basic idea initially is have a guaranteed minimum price for each of the produce. Buy them up because you have a glut. Glut usually will create a problem where the farmer will be running at a loss because you have oversupply in the market. So when you're mopping it up, there is simply an idea to ensure that a farmer doesn't run at a loss. If he runs at a loss, assuming he plants 20 hectares of tomatoes and he runs at a loss, he can't be able to, cover his cost. The farm gate cost, then there's a problem. So the government comes in to ensure the farmer does not run at a loss. Buy it up, put it for a future where you might have scarcity. Now, I mean, across the country, all the countries of the world, that's how you manage price of food in the market. So when the price is up, perhaps during a planting season, you release it. And that has a way of stabilizing the price again, bringing back stability in the price system to such an extent that before you now await for the harvest.
Why somehow it makes economic sense and accounting sense to me what you're saying. There's also the part about the hunger that doesn't allow one to calculate through. Do you think the food reserves being opened up, as they say they will do so, I'm even wondering, when you open up the food reserves, how do you distribute it? We've had a distribution problem in Nigeria, whether you're distributing palliative, whether you're distributing school feeding program or anything you're distributing. And they say they open up food reserves either for sale or for direct giving and the likes of that. How does the government, how do you think they will be able to pull that off? Because it leaves one with so much to imagine that when you open up silos, and say, oh, the Nigerian government is saying state governments share this thing for your people, is still often shared among some hands who may not share to the people at the end of the day. Let's forget the fact that there's money to buy or there's even no money to buy and there's hunger in the land.
The first thing you work with, agriculture is a science. And that science is science of data. You either plant 1 hectare, 2 hectares, 3 hectares.
Okay.
That's data.
Yes.
You either, during harvest, you're going to say, okay, how much do I get per hectare? 3 bags of, how many metric tons would I get per hectare? Because that's how you calculate your yield.
Yes.
Then the other one is that you are also dealing with a population of people. I believe and I know government has data about who are Nigerians, where do they live, and what is their need. It's a very simple thing. Say, for instance, if you come to an urban area, there's clear classification. You have where the urban poor lives on the suburbs. You have where the top upper class live.
Yes.
So I would think it would be a disservice if I need palliative, whether food palliative or whatever, and I start heading to Maitama looking for people to hand over the food assistance to. Or in the US, they call it food stamps. Yeah, that would be that would be out of it. So, but I know where they are. So, in terms of even if you do the demography, you can do a demographical analysis, analytics, geographically. You know where they are, and you know how to get their data. Government is everything.
Okay, let's open up the phone lines. Let's people joining into this conversation because the few things we've touched on so far quite of interest. 14 days, one strike days notice of strike. They say fixed prices of food and the likes of that. The lines are open. Join in right now. 080 95 97 4869. You can also join in on WhatsApp on 080 999. That's 999 301 37. Welcome to the show. I'm glad you joined in.
Good afternoon, Adi. Good evening. Dr. Femi, this is Tuesday from Guadalajara.
Welcome. Unfortunately, the guy you're talking to doesn't even know which one it is, but we move.
Yes, Dr. Femi.
Yes, sir.
Please, I want to beg the government. Let them pay the workers. Let them pay, especially the teachers. I want to beg them. All these one strike or no one strike, the future of our children is at risk. And we are crying for the damage that is already on and we are still cultivating additional one. So let them do the needful. They have money to do that. If they should have money to pay the executives and they should pay the teachers. They are even the real people that are supposed to receive their salary. Then away from that, how the government or the judge, how did they think that government has the authority to fix prices? In fact, I don't want to even blame them because the judges are now in the portfolio of the politicians. But I want to advise our government, they should stop chasing shadow. Let them go. Those they call local refineries they are talking about. It's nothing like local. They should teach them how to make it normal. That is how to earn money. They should teach people how to make money, not going to impose price. If I spend 700 naira to produce something, you come and tell me how much to sell.
Okay.
Not applicable at all.
Thank you.
It's not acceptable.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Grateful to you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, Femi.
Welcome.
Afternoon.
Yes,
My
welcome.
name is I'm calling from Nasarawa.
Welcome from Nasarawa.
And you see, I think that CUC and the N and Labour, they don't have work to do in this country again.
More dear.
They have fed the country woefully and they have fed themselves. And the Femi Falana and Scott, I think that they don't have work to do.
Who not have
They
work
don't
if
have
everybody
any
doesn't have
land.
work?
Yes. Why? Because their idea when the president put that fuel to 60 something naira, let them tell him to revise that fuel to 250 naira. Everything will calm down. Everything will calm down by itself.
Okay.
Why? Because you don't expect person to go and buy a good. They have every state to go, everybody shop and begin to ask them how much you are selling. That is not work. Because you don't have work for this country. Let them tell the president to revise that fuel back.
All right.
It's immediately revise it.
Yes.
Okay.
All things will be well. Thank you. Thank you for your time. By the way, the National Assembly, through the House of Representatives, the Speaker is addressing the nation now. It's a press briefing. We'll pinch into that as we go on, but we have to take some more calls before we go on to other subjects at this very lovely day. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, World Class Dr. Femi. Thank you for another explosive interview this afternoon. Dr. I'm Mustafa Bakar Ali Eketin calling from PW Kubwa.
Glad you're
Yesterday, Dr. Majid Dahiru lectured us on energy security and energy insecurity. Mr. Femi D and our respected guest, no amount of strike, no amount of palliative can remedy the already battered economy, the already endangered, population of Nigeria.
Oh, there, that dropped off. Okay. Let's just pinch in a little bit into what the speaker is saying, and then we'll still return to the conversation and take more of your calls. Here's a little bit of what the speaker is saying. I will take that shortly now. But, okay, here's somebody else joining in as well. Welcome to the show. Yes, welcome, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon in the studio.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, my name is Chide.
Okay, Chidebere, yes.
I think issue of price control, the situation of Nigeria has overtaken all of this. And I don't think it will be possible. With the floating of dollar, I go to the market, maybe a dollar at the rate of 1,000. I go to overseas to import. And when my goods on the way coming, dollar is 1.3. Before it arrives, it's 1.5. You will not come and calculate the rate I buy and tell me how much to sell. And after, where will I get the balance to go and import again? I go to the bank. They tell me that I will pay interest rate of so amount, which is overboard. You see, if you want to get this thing right, it should revert the price of the price of petroleum. And I'm not even putting into account. I have a friend who came back from Katsina the other day, and he was telling me the way they live by the border, the amount of motor loading food items from Nigeria here over to the Republic is alarming. And he was asking me, can we survive this? And he don't even know what the reason is. And I told him, their money has more value than ours now. So they come here and not look whatever they see, because it is cheaper for them, and go over there to go and sell. So how do we survive it? You come this price for me, and you still allow the naira, you flip the naira, then I will go and come back, and I will not be able to go back again. So where does our work? You know, you have to work.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that and your view on this. Interesting that you do say that. Let's read from some of our friends on Facebook as we continue to build into your response to this. Mwazi John Lasese from Jigo in Buhari says dollarization of businesses and dependence on petroleum cause all the hardship we are passing through. Afsat Mwazi says, good afternoon, Femi D. Abdulaziz Hamza says, from Maraba Nasra says, Femi, this hardship is too much on us, brother. That's what you do. Provide us cancer for me. Ayeto on YouTube did say, good afternoon. Monday Aliyu says, well done, Mr. Femdi, and your guest in the house. Good afternoon, sir, and well done. That also comes in. Well, the Speaker of the House of Representatives has just finished much of his briefing. I presume questions and answers will be asked of him in a short while with regards to how things are and what's expected of them. Meanwhile, in Kano, I don't know if you picked up on this, the anti-graft agency there says they're going to open up stores hoarding food from people in Kano. That's according to the, let me get it now. Public Complaint and Anti-Corruption Commission says it's going to go after stores in Kano that are ordering essential commodities with a view of addressing rising inflation in the states. The chairman of the commission, Muhi Magaji Rimi Gado, did say this on Thursday after being under immense pressure to act against such traders because of the prevailing economic situation in the country. It said the commission achieved breakthrough in 2020 during COVID-19 pandemic when traders were ordering food. It talked about sugar is now being sold at 73,000 naira, and it is unimaginable. He said he discovered that the price of 50 kg is 58,000 naira. And there you go. This is part of by force control that we're talking about. And it leaves one with so much just to wonder about as well. There's another subject I wanted to bring up to your attention. I don't know if you're following through with this. The bandits who abducted women accompanied the bride to the matrimonial home in Damari, Sabua, local government area of Katsina State last Thursday released a video. And in the video, the bandits said they were asking for 100 million naira to release them. In fact, they do say they will marry off the bride, and that the 62 wedding guests that were kidnapped alongside with the bride if their demands were not met. They did know no fewer than 55 wedding guests, including children, were snatched and have since then been held hostage, according to the villagers. And the bride, they say will be married off. I don't know. The tactics around kidnapping, the skill set used in negotiating forcefully that you cannot resist than to make that move It's getting really, really oppressive. How do you say you marry off a bride who just got married and then sell off the guests who were open to attend the wedding?
If you ask me, Femi, I think when I read it earlier on today, what came to my mind was, there's an article I read some months ago on what they call the psychology of kidnapping. The entire thing is, the basic psychology is to instill fear on the victim.
Yes.
To try to make him or her do whatever they want, to do their biddings. And again, to create a worst case scenario as a way of instilling fear. You notice that most of the people perhaps who die in the hands of kidnappers, some out of exhaustion, all kinds of.
Yeah.
If you read stories that people usually would tell when they come out, it's really sad that this is happening in Nigeria. Sometimes when you reflect, you say, how did we get here? And then how can we get out of this? What looks like a hole, so to speak. It's sad reading this and saying that they are going to marry off.
Yes, just let me turn your mic towards you a little bit more. Oh, great, better.
That they're going to marry off the bride. They have this sense of arrogance, if you ask me.
Sense of arrogance.
Sense of arrogance that they display, as if everything, stops at their feet. It's very, very annoying.
It is annoying, and it is something, just to wonder about. And when you read out things like this, it's for anybody who knows about kidnappers, it seems that there's a syndicated level of confidence that they're building up that no matter what, we will always get the kidnapping money that surely enough that they're looking forward to in some sense of it. Mr. Why was to dig through some of those items and some of those calls? I want you also take on some of the questions that is being asked of the speaker alongside with his members right there and there. It's been asked question. I presume this narrative or this briefing has to do with a lot of our economic situation. The National Assembly has invited everybody. Okay, not everybody. Everybody that you want. Okay, don't use everybody. Has invited people that I think may have answers, from service chiefs to CBN to Minister of Finance. And it's interesting that they're being asked some questions around the nation on some of these subjects. Let's just take a brief moment to listen to some of those questions that are being asked.
This is Hard Facts.
Hard
Facts.
On 95.1 Nigeria Info.
Briefing. I'm sure my honorable colleagues and every meaning Nigerian will tell you that there is no better time for the Nigerian parliament to come out and speak the minds of Nigerians, to respond to their anger, to their agony, to their pains. There is no better time. That's why we're here. We are not here to take care of ourselves. We are here to represent our people. And at this time, at this era, with the kind of hardship Nigerians are facing, it becomes obvious and expedient on us to call for this briefing and to tell the world that we are concerned. We feel their pains. We hear their problems, and we will not relent in coming out to solutions that will ameliorate all their sufferings. This is the main reason why we decided on this day to convey this meeting, to tell the world, to tell our constituents, and to tell our governments. We are here to do the extraordinary. We're here to ensure that all these issues that are affecting our people are paramount to us. I'll do everything humanly possible to ensure that we bring succor to their lives. That is the purpose of this meeting. The second question is on the issue of the previous security summit convened during the 9th Assembly, which is similar in so many respects with the one that we are advocating now. The legislative summit that we promised to convene very soon. I'm aware some of us here were also part and parcel of that summit. From what they are saying is that majority of what has been discussed, solutions that have been proffered have not yielded any fruits. Or in a nutshell, the previous government did not do much to implement the resolutions proffered during the last summit. I want to assure you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as I have said during the 1st October speech, that we are lucky this time around in this country, that we have unity of purpose. The government is made up of legislators. So there is a synergy, there is an understanding, there is a cohesion between what they do there and what we do here. We have a very, very effective understanding. And we want to assure you as well that we will not convey this summit alone. We will do the summit in collaboration with executives so that whatever we come up with at the end of the day will be a product of their own inputs as well. It will not be just the legislators' inputs. It will be a combined inputs of both the legislature and the executives. So I want to assure you, this summit will succeed because we will work together with the executive at every stage of that process. Thank you very much. The last question was, in what way can we convince Nigerians that the present 10th House of Representatives oversight will impact on the people of this country? Again, I must emphasize what you have said earlier. In our legislative agenda, we have indicated categorically the means and ways that we are going to follow each sector, what we need to do in each sector. So we are not going to oversight like before in darkness. We have a roadmap. We know where to go and we know the right thing to do in every establishment we visit. And don't forget, for the very first time in the history of this parliament, we have a standing committee that is going to monitor the performance of all standing committees. Oversight is one of the critical areas that this standing committee is going to be very particular about. How effective, how efficient are standing committees oversighting their agencies? And I assure you, after 1 year, we will come out with a report card of each committee, how they are faring, and tell the Nigerian people. We believe with those kind of initiatives, oversight function and oversight activities will be greatly improved.
This is Hard Facts.
All right, Mr. Michael, before we go for the news break, the speaker is still live, still responding to questions. I know there are going to be a ton of questions it would be asked, but what do you make of his response so far in the few questions? He was asked 3 questions thus far and he has responded to 3. What do you make of them?
It's key that he has admitted that the National Assembly is coming under pressure because they have a work and they have a people they represent, and they need to report back to that people that they represent at their constituents. I mean, by the time each of them travel home each weekend, each day, and what have you, they get feedback. Even people who call them on the phone. I mean, all the parts of Nigeria where you have high rate of insecurity are their constituencies. I mean, so they can't pretend that all is well. So this is like an admittance. Look, gentlemen, we've got issues, we've got crises, we've got challenges, and we must have to rise up and face these challenges. I mean, he really admit that, look, we need to come back. But the part where I find a little bit sort of something I've heard over time is security summit.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was the other one.
I mean, for me, several have been held. Can't you review whatever it is that is the outcome of any of these summits and find out the takeaways and take it away, start implementing them? Or even if you're going to put it as a resolution, motion in the House or whatever it is, instead of waiting until you convey another one. So I hope it's just, the issue about talk shops sometimes don't deliver anything.
There's always something to sell in a talk shop, even though it's very interesting that he repeated the fact that he is aware that whatever was talked about in the night summit, with some members who were there, which majority were
including
himself, is going to be repeated. Yeah. And I presume these summits are going to be funded one way or the other, and no differently. And well, whatever they come up with will be interesting. And yesterday, we need to take on the news, but I'm curious to ask you about, the rounds of, hey, call the Minister of Agriculture, call the Minister of Finance, call anybody who is a minister or a leader of an MDA to come and explain what is going on with regards to their own part of their own role in the states of the nation. That was done practically so many times under the administration of President Buhari and under the former speaker at the time, Gbajabiamila, and of course, Senate President at the time. Everybody comes to explain the same thing over and over again, and looks like there's really no update, but just the same thing. But here we go. The 10th Assembly is also inclined to do the same even now, to invite ministers, invite anybody who is invitable to come and speak about what's going on.
Yeah, but clearly that's what legislature is all about. The legislature, as it were, represents the people, because you have over 300 members there representing different locations, different geographies in Nigeria. So what it simply means is that they need, that's part of their remit. In fact, under a parliamentary system of government, every Thursday, they have what they call Prime Minister's question and answer.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
So, but because we are operating the American presidential system of government, so the only way you can get feedback,
is when they choose to come around.
No, it's when you extend an invitation to, members of the executive, and they must come. Yesterday there was a huge inquiry in the U.S. House of Representatives on the Homeland Security Secretary. It's their role. It's what they should be doing from time to time, because the issues where perhaps a former minister was invited 2-3 years ago there may have been some new dynamics. But the point is that they should do it with the hope of being pragmatic, of solving problems, not just to have meetings and talk shops. But it should be result focused.
This is Hard Facts with Femi Live today. My guest, Mr. Mike, Mr. Emmanuel will be with me even after the news comes up. Stay with us right here on Nigerian Info.
I'm often asked, why do I do a political show? Well, it has to be because of one of my favorite political quotes, the Gessner philosophy. And it says,
This is Nigeria Info.